Why did Brexit fail? Quite a harsh title, my friends. Good evening. I've been talking to you about Brexit for several years now. Full disclosure, as they say, revealing conflicts of interest. Not everyone does that. I voted for Brexit. I voted for the United Kingdom to leave the European Union in the referendum that was put to us in 2016 now. I'll tell you later, towards the end of this video, what I would vote for today if I had the chance to vote again. And why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you what I'm telling you today? It's not to say that the European Union is a very good thing. That's not my goal. That's not the message tonight. But I know that a lot of people who follow me support Frexit. And I'd like to tell you one thing. Don't do what we did. That means I'm still a supporter of Frexit, but don't make our mistakes. Because if you make our mistakes, your Frexit will be absolutely useless. What logic, what reasoning led me to vote for Brexit? I thought innocently, in fact, naively, I thought that the country needed to regain or recover its sovereignty. That the country, once it has sovereignty, once it takes back control of its affairs, well, it would be able to pursue a national policy, a policy of its own. It will allow us to restore a bit of quality of life. It will allow us to boost the economy again, to regain control of our borders, to control our justice system. All of that is to improve things for everyone. This is not what the country needed. The United Kingdom didn't need sovereignty. The United Kingdom needed dignity. We must first teach it dignity before teaching it sovereignty. It's like taking a child and wanting to teach him how to ride a scooter. We want him to ride the scooter. And then he can't ride the scooter. And then we realize that he doesn't even know how to walk yet. He needs to learn how to walk. Set the scooter aside and teach him to walk first. Once he can walk, we can discuss the scooter. The United Kingdom needs to learn the meaning of dignity, and then we can talk about sovereignty. Until that day, it's pointless. That was a premature debate or discussion. Let me give you a simple example. When you go with a British passport, today to the European Union, when you get to the border, where do you go? It says all passports, any passport, and you have to go through there. If unfortunately there were a lot of people, if there was a long line because, I don't know, maybe a 747 arrived from China or somewhere else, at that point it could mean hours of waiting. Once you're in front of whatever country's border police, they'll ask questions like, what are you here for? How long are you going to stay? What's your job? Do you have money? Do you have a return ticket? And so on. And some can be very unpleasant toward British passport holders. Just between us, because I always disclose conflicts of interest, there's no need to come into the comments and tell me, look, Aldo, you're suffering, and so on. I'm defending people personally. I'm not defending myself. I have a European passport. When I travel, I don't travel with my British passport. I travel with a European passport, use the e-gates, and in 5 seconds it opens and I enter the European Union with full rights. I'm not talking about myself, but about the millions suffering today. Donc, the British, as I mentioned, are struggling and suffering when traveling to the European Union. The Europeans, when they arrive in the United Kingdom, what do? Nobody asks them any questions. They go to the e-gates, put their passport on the scanner, and they go through. And others do the same. Americans, for example. Me, I go to the United States. Sometimes you can take a 10-hour flight and then spend 2 or 3 hours waiting in front of border control until it's your turn. They take your fingerprints, your photographs. They ask you a lot of questions. Me, I just let them go. Americans, they arrive, they put their passport on the glass, and they get through the entrance in 5 seconds. Okay, that's how it is for the Japanese, South Koreans, Singaporeans, Australians, New Zealanders, lots of countries that don't even give us the same treatment in return. They come in here as if they own the place. Why don't we force them to go to border control? Because we don't have enough border officers. We don't have enough. We haven't trained enough. We wasted the money. We have money for pointless things. We don't have money for any of our national problems. We have money for the climate because, we live in a cold country, so cold that it has been described as a damp sponge. A cold, frozen country. And the fear of the authorities. And our national priority is global warming. We're afraid the country will get warmer, that it will become something even worse than Saudi Arabia, because people haven't died in Saudi Arabia. We're afraid it could be worse. We're afraid of reaching, I don't know, 65 degrees in the shade. You see, at that point, we die. So we spend billions on this. The latest one, 22 billion for devices to capture carbon from the atmosphere. When I was a child, we called that a tree. Today, it's 22 billion to buy machines that don't work, right? That would fail in elite competition. There you go. So it's a country that I just gave you a symbolic example that can't understand the meaning of dignity, of sovereignty, of sacrifice. Also, regarding border control. For example, back then, people were told, listen, in any case, what's going to happen is that this will allow us to control the borders and to avoid, for example, the flow of migrants that we had. And at the time, the European Union was being blamed. Now, I'm not saying that the European Union isn't responsible. Yes, except that we forgot that the call is coming from inside. You know, it's like that woman who's in a house, and then she gets calls from a creep who's threatening her. All that, she's scared. Imagine a movie, a little Hitchcockian vibe and all that, with an atmosphere, music, scary music. She's alone at night. Nightgown, she hears the phone ringing. Someone is threatening her and all that. And then she realizes that the call is coming from inside the house. So we're the same. The call is coming from inside. That means once we were told we want to take back control of our borders. Yes, but regaining border control is meaningless. Yes, it doesn't mean anything. They didn't say we were going to decrease or increase immigration. They said we want to control our borders. Well, the controls are in place now. And since we're controlling them, we've actually increased immigration. Simple, including illegal immigration. Today, my friends, while businesses are closing, last year in terms of business, do you think we had a staggering number? Nearly 15,000 businesses closed last year in 2024. Huge. We had an exodus that continues today. We lost practically 1 millionaire every 45 minutes in 2024. Because people are fleeing, because businesses are collapsing. Inflation, the collapse of tax revenues, which means the tax authorities are going to start. They've already started a tax grab. We've experienced an unprecedented tax grab. You have to go back to 1945 to find such a heavy tax burden. That's where we are now. There's a massive exodus. People are leaving this country in large numbers. Young people are leaving. They're going to teach English. They're going to work as bartenders in Thailand, in Australia, wherever. Engineers are leaving for the United States. More experienced people are leaving for Dubai. Those who can, for example, those who came from Eastern European countries and have a Polish or Romanian passport or something else, are going back to Poland, going back to Romania. French people have left. A lot of people are leaving this country. Retirees are moving to cheaper countries. You see what I mean? What's terrible is that despite everything, the only thriving industry is the immigration industry. We're about to probably be the first country in the world to have its first immigration billionaire. I'm not saying millionaire, my friends. Billionaire, 10 to the power of 9 immigration billionaire. We have someone who provides hotel rooms to the state. He founded an industry and he's about to become a billionaire. The last time his fortune was estimated, it was around 800 million. 800 million by subletting rooms to the state for migrants. The state keeps thousands of hotel rooms empty, paying for them all year round, just in case they need them to house migrants. Meanwhile, we have retirees whose heating subsidies have been cut. I told you about this, so they can't afford heating. Several thousand of them die from the cold every year, but this year we think the toll will be terrible because this time they can't even afford heating, right? Well, there was a scandal a few days ago where, in a WhatsApp group, politicians from the Labour Party, the left wing party currently in power, right, who said in the WhatsApp group, anyway, we don't care, these retirees will be dead by the next election. Why did they cut off their heating? Because retirees tend to vote conservative, right? A conservative who is the same vermin as Labour, by the way. Anyway, this isn't a partisan video, right? I'm not saying one is better than the other. But the reality is, The reality is that illegal migration has exploded in the United Kingdom to the point that we're about to have a billionaire, right? I was telling you. At the same time, the British have seen their freedom to move around restricted. For example, today, a retiree who would like to spend their retirement in Spain can't. Spain used to be a top destination for the British. Retirement is so difficult in the UK that most can't afford to live there after retiring due to high costs. So they'd go to Spain, get a bit of sunshine and all that, and they could live there. So today, no, that's not possible. They're stuck here, yet the migrant isn't stuck there. So we're also aligned politically with the European Union. Today, we have Keir Starmer making joint statements with the European Union about Ukraine, for example. He's making joint statements. So we're 100% aligned with the European Union. We're aligned with European Union regulations. When European regulations say something, it comes to us within a few days. A simple example. I was in the United States. I opened a bottle of water, and then, wow, I had the cap in my hand. I thought, that's great. These are symbolic once again. And I thought to myself, here we are in a land of free people. Compared to Americans, we in Europe are like domesticated hamsters. That's the level we're at. They have the right to vote for whoever they want. They have the right to talk about whatever they want. They have freedom of speech. They have the freedom to bear arms. They are free to do anything. We in Europe are losing our freedoms, and our lives are increasingly micromanaged by officials on our behalf. So, Europe came up with this thing, the attached cap system, which has become a laughing stock around the world, by the way. Well, we have it in the United Kingdom too. We have it in the United Kingdom. You're going to tell me, yeah, but the machines, the machine manufacturers. Wait, are you going to tell me that all the British manufacturers changed their machines? That means they change their machines every month. No. These machines last 10 to 15 years. The British bottlers have complied with European law. So we're not actually out. I'll tell you why Brexit failed. Brexit was a failure because there was no real Brexit. We simply lost our seat at the table. That's all. That means what we did was we told the British, take your flags, you're leaving, you lower the European Union flag on your institutions, period. All of that is just detail. That's just a detail. For everything else, we are in the European Union. In practice, we are in it, plain and simple. That's it. Now, I promise to answer the question: what would I do if the pro EU people end up getting another referendum on the Union? What do I do? Do I vote Brexit or do I vote for the European Union? That's what I do, and I'm being honest. I won't vote. I'll have a barbecue that day because I've simply lost faith in this country. I've completely lost faith because I ended up realizing that the call is coming from inside the house. Those who are at war with us are here. They are here. They are not coming from elsewhere. They are here. They are among us. And whether we're in the European Union, outside of it, even in Mercosur, or if we join whatever else, it will be exactly the same. They will carry out exactly the same policies, which are policies of national destruction. In fact, that's the mistake, the serious mistake, and don't make that mistake. You Frexiters never make that mistake. It's that we voted for Brexit, but we handed over the management of Brexit to people who were not sovereigntists, to people who were deeply pro-European, people who were deeply aligned with the Davos crowd, people who were globalists. What did they do? They did everything they could to sabotage everything. That means Keir Starmer is a globalist. Starmer, our prime minister, took a photo of himself kneeling in his office during the BLM protests in Minneapolis and elsewhere in the United States. By the way, kneeling suits him very well. At the time, I found it shocking, but today, no, I think that position suits him very well. In fact, it suits the whole country, the kneeling position. It's the most illustrative position of the state of decay of this country. It's a country that lives on its knees. So we handed over Brexit and the sovereignty we had regained. We gave it to those people who said, okay, you left the European Union. You think you've escaped globalism. Do you think that just because you left the European Union, you're going to change anything about your fate? We're going to make it even worse for you. You didn't want migrants, right? Okay. We're going to multiply them by 10 and you'll see how funny it is. You see? That's it. You didn't want globalism? All right. Well, we're going to multiply it by 10. You didn't want war? We're going to get you involved in wars. We're going to sign a 100-year agreement. We're going to sign a 100-year agreement with Ukraine. There you go. We're going to give you billions. You'll see. You'll understand. So, in France, don't do like we did. If you vote for Frexit, make sure the package includes real sovereigntists. There's no point in voting for Frexit, leaving the European Union and giving, for example, the power to Macron. Macron, his mandate was renewed, right? Not you specifically, but the French people have twice renewed their trust in him. And if by a constitutional amendment he managed to run for a third time, I have no doubt personally that they would vote for him a third time. You see what I mean? Even though they hate him. The French have had this pattern for a long time. I don't like him. He's not my president. I'll grumble about him, but I vote for him. I mean, at some point, you have to make up your mind. If you're masochistic, you should just say it. But if the French keep voting for the same clique and at the same time they're messing around, well, that's it. Nothing's going to change, you know. It's actually going to make your situation even worse. You're even going to go downhill faster than before, you know. You'll even go faster. We need to break free from the European Union, which is deadly and destructive. They'll speed up their plan. That's it. Thank you, friends, for listening to this video up to this point, right? And I'll see you in the next one. And I almost forgot, right? I almost forgot to tell you about my book. See how good I am at marketing? I'm mentioning my book at the end of the video. That's really bad. In marketing, you never do that. My book, Pour en finir avec la dépression, already available on Amazon, right? I won't say anymore. I was going to say but I won't say anything at all. Available on Amazon. It may have words you need to hear. See you very soon.